Okay, Jenna, look, it's important to remember there are three crucial aspects to business. One, getting the work. Number two, doing the work. Three, getting paid for the work. So it's often said that middle one is the easy one. That's why most people set up their business because that's what they're good at. But without the first, you don't have any clients, and if you don't pay for the work you've done, it's all pointless. So I'm delighted to have Jenna Mairs here with me. Okay, Jenna is an investment manager for White Rock Capital Partners, who manage the Growth Loan Fund and the Growth Finance Fund in Northern Ireland. And as an investment manager, you're responsible for sourcing and executing investment transactions.
Yep.
And also, you are this year's 2019 chairperson of Young Leaders NI. So, Jenna, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks very much for having me, Roger.
Can I ask you just a couple of things? If I split the two, White Rock Capital and then Young Leaders. So can you tell me a little bit more about the work that you do and what White Rock Capital Partners does?
Yeah, so White Rock Capital Partners manage two of the Invest NI Access to Finance funds, so the Growth Loan Fund and the Growth Finance Fund. We can provide loans to SMEs in Northern Ireland between 100k and 2 million,
Okay.
and over a 2 to 7 year term. We generally work with banks and with other providers
Okay.
to provide those finance solutions.
Okay, so you've got money and you're going to lend this money out?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
so looking at good data, presumably good financial information is critical to it, and we'll come on to that. Okay, so how did you get into this?
I originally trained in KPMG, so I have a background as an auditor, a chartered accountant, and whenever White Rock was set up 7 years ago, I was one of the first employees, and I initially came in as a financial analyst to do the due diligence process that we would undertake as part of our funding, and then I've moved into an investment manager role since then.
Okay, and in your role as the investment manager, what is it you do?
So really I would be responsible for going out, finding transactions that we can take part in, finding loans, finding companies that are looking for finance, and taking that to our credit committee, taking the company right through the process up to legals and the drawdown stage, and then drawing down funds to that company.
Okay, we talked just before we started this, okay, about the difference between backward-looking accounts, which is effectively last year's accounts
Yeah.
or management accounts, and forward-looking projections. Okay, so what advice would you be saying to somebody if they were coming to you with a proposal? What's critical for them to have?
It's critical for them to have a good plan, to have something that is achievable, something, you can base it off your historic information, but it's about looking to the future and what you expect to achieve within the next 12, 24 months, to make sure that the information that they're putting in is something that they can measure their performance against. So, in a month's time, 2 months' time, looking back on what they said they were going to do, so that they can check and see, why did we not achieve it? Why did we achieve it? Have we done better? It's important for a company to have a firm grasp on its cash flows, to make sure that they know where the money's coming in from, when they need to pay their suppliers, and to ensure that they have sufficient working capital to do that. It's important for them to look at their financing options. There are quite a lot of different options in the market, and having the right mix of financing that works for the company. Something like a loan, which will be repayable over a term.
Yeah.
There's invoice discounting facilities, which are revolving facilities. Whenever you have an invoice, you can discount against that and get your cash flow in. Hire purchase, leases of some sort that
Yeah.
allow you to front up the capital for some sort of a significant capital purchase.
Yeah, there's many different ways to finance a
Yeah.
business, and sometimes I think when you've been in it, you just assume that everybody knows these things. But for the young person who's starting out on their own, back to what we said earlier about getting the work, doing the work, and getting paid for the work, getting paid for the work, most people think is, well, I've delivered a service to you or a product, you give me money. But there's a lot more to it than that. You talk about discount, invoice discounting
yeah.
and all, okay? So how do people get to know all this?
I would say it's through having good advisors. So having
Yeah.
somebody in place who knows what they're talking about. So a good financial advisor, somebody, a good accountant who knows the different options that are available, because there are a wide range of providers in the market, and to have somebody who knows what your different options would be is essential. I would also say having a mentor in place, somebody who's done it before, is something that I find works really well for people, can open doors that they wouldn't be able to open on their own, can provide some guidance, for things that they may have done wrong in the past, things that they've done well, things that they wish they had done or wish that they hadn't done. And, there are a lot of people within the market who would be more than happy to impart their knowledge to that younger generation that are going to, come forward and lead businesses, in the next few years and help Northern Ireland as a whole grow.
I think mentors are actually very, very important. The number of people who have come out from doing the job, whatever that job is, and then setting up on their own. And it's a big, scary world, being on your own, running a business. So having that support network is critical, but also to know what to outsource and what to keep yourself.
Yes.
So outsourcing the accounting function, for example, because most people who set up a business aren't accountants, chartered accountants by nature, so understanding that and having the right support's important.
Yeah, no, without a doubt it is. And networking's very important as well.
Yeah.
I've actually found, sometimes even younger people who are in business, their competitors aren't as competitive as you think a competitor would be. And sometimes competitors can open doors for those earlier stage growing businesses. People, especially in Northern Ireland, like to help other people, and you can find that growing that network, meeting up with people in the same space can help you and also help them at the same time. You can introduce them to people that they wouldn't otherwise know. And quite often you don't necessarily need to be in total competition with each other. You can work together to help
I think you
each other grow.
Up on something. I think Northern Ireland people do like to, and this isn't really about accounts, but Northern Ireland people do like to help Northern Ireland people.
Yes,
there is I will try my best to pass on whatever knowledge I have to help you, and that's a great thing to have.
Yeah, I think quite often as well, Northern Ireland people don't shout about what they do as much as they should. There's a lot of really good businesses in Northern Ireland that none of us have ever heard of because they're doing what they do, but they're humble and they don't like to shout about their achievements.
They're happy to be under the radar, so to speak.
I think quite often it's important for people to get out, to do the networking, to do a bit of PR around, what they're doing, what they've achieved, what they intend to achieve. And, even as far as bringing in new employees or, new customers, like, that shouting about what you do aspect can help with that.
So when we're looking at mentoring or using other people to help you, setting your accounts up properly, understanding the different finance options, that's important. I presume technology, running the back office financial function of a business is a lot easier now than what it was.
Yeah, there's a lot of different accounts packages out there that are very simple to use, and will give you up-to-date information. You can put your invoices on when you have them.
Yeah.
A lot of them will link in with your bank statements so that you have an ongoing picture of exactly where you are, which is essential, especially at the earlier stages of a business where cash flow is very tight. Yeah. You need to know, exactly where you are. Yeah. There's no point waiting really to the year end to get your accounts to find out. Yeah. Oh well, that's that's where I am.
Yeah, that's backward looking information
yes, it really
again.
Is.
So back to when you're White Rock Capital, somebody's coming to you with projections. Okay.
Yes.
Certainly, I presume you look and say, okay, well, this is what you did in the past. But having accurate projections and being able to support that with empirical data has got to be critical for your business to make a decision on the loan.
Yes, it's very important to have projections that seem achievable. If you did 1 million turnover last year and you're projecting 10 million this year, well, that extra 9 million, can you support that with contracts? Can you support that with something to say where that's coming from? Or, is the 2 million, 3 million more achievable? And it's quite important, especially in the cash flow forecasting side of things, to know, where you're going to go, because the difference between that 3 million and the 10 million turnover can be quite a difference, can have quite a huge impact on your cash flow.
Well, if you've got 30-day terms to pay your suppliers, but somebody's giving you in 60 days, does it? No, the other way around is perfect.
Yes.
But
I don't know that the other way around happens too often.
But to understand those sorts of things is difficult.
Yes, that's why I would say, you need somebody either on the mentor side of things or on the financial advisor side of things who can give you a bit of a steer especially, if you're looking at new customers, like quite often, depending on who your customers are, who they're going to be, they can dictate to you when they're going to pay you. And if you have to pay your suppliers in 30 days, but your customers are demanding 120, you have a bit of a shortfall there. So you will need to fund that somehow.
Particularly, I suppose, if you're in a growth, a lot of people have lifestyle businesses, and that's fine. It's there to achieve a particular purpose for them. But if they're in a growth strategy, they have to reinvest. And understanding free capital as to money you've got to pay your own wages, to pay your suppliers, and money that you're going to reinvest into the business. That's critical to understand it, isn't it?
Yes, it is, absolutely. And, whenever you are setting up your own business, you want to take a salary as well. There's no point in you reining yourself in, and not taking what would be realistic as a salary for yourself. Yes, you're doing it because you're passionate about it, but you need to get paid for what you're doing. So that is important, to look at where your growth story is coming from, and where, what you need to do to achieve it. How many staff do you need to take on? You might be gearing up for something in the future, but at what stage in the future is that going to come? If you take on 10 employees now but only have enough work for 5 of them, you've still got 10 people to pay. You need to have quite a good grasp on what's coming, and that's where your projections can work for you, where you can see, and you can then look at them on a monthly basis, on a revolving basis, update those as to what work is coming, and when you think you need to take on that next employee to be able to service the work.
Yeah, because you want to see if you have a problem coming at you. The time it's hit you, it's too late probably to deal something with it. So, accurate projections supported by good data, good management information, which is easily received, is critical to let you do that.
Yeah, and a lot of those accounting packages that are out there will allow you to update, for your where you actually stand, so that you can see, well, if next month works out as you thought that it was going to be, where will you be on a cash flow basis? Where will you be? Where will your debtors sit? Where will your creditors sit? What payments do you need to make? So it is critically important to keep on top of, what's happening within your business at any point in time.
And without naming names, I'm sure you've seen examples of good business plans and good projections and seriously ones.
Yeah, well, they come in all different shapes and sizes. So, like, you can get from a few-page business plan to, War and Peace, which tells you exactly what the company's going to do. Projections can go the same way. They can be prepared in Excel or Sage, or it's about them being realistic. So we would see projections, that look good, but don't have any supporting evidence behind them, and that's where we start to drill down. And sometimes I think even having a conversation with the person, whenever you're questioning them on how they've come up with their projections, kind of gives them a chance to step back and think, oh, well, can I achieve this? Is this realistic?
What about stress testing? If you were with somebody, would you try and encourage them, or would you recommend to somebody, say, okay, well, if this supplier, if their payment terms edged out a bit, or if this customer defaulted, to look at that sort of stress testing, the figures, actually challenging the information that you've got?
That is something that we would do internally for all the loans that we look at. So we will look, especially, if there's a critical supplier or a critical customer, what happens if this falls out a month? What happens if, your turnover's 20% less than you expected it to be? It is something that we look at. And, a good financial advisor, a good accountant will also discuss those kind of things with their customers, because it's important to be prepared, because you might be ready to do a job, but your customer might not want it done till the next month. That's something might happen, that pushes out the time frames, that pushes up the costs. And it's about, being prepared that if that happens, that there is a safety net in place to make sure that you can absorb either the extra costs or the extra time that it's going to take.
So that's having good information, really accurate, up-to-date information, good management accounts or management information, whatever you want to call it, okay? Know your customer base, and either have that third party to challenge you on it, because sometimes a young business person, I think, can be too close to it. They're emotionally invested in it, so you need somebody to not
Yeah.
be so emotionally invested in it.
Yeah, no, you can be very passionate, and we all know, like, you can write something down and you read it and read it and read it, and it reads perfectly.
Yeah.
Somebody else reads it and they spot the mistakes, and it is important there to have somebody who is going to critique what you're doing,
Yeah.
who's going to question you on it, who's going to, check to make sure that your assumptions are realistic. And having that mentor or the financial advisor in place, or even somebody else in your management team, having a good team around you is essential.
Yeah.
Especially a smaller business where quite often the business owner can do everything, can be the
Or at
jack
least
of all
think they
trades.
can do everything.
Will try to do everything.
Yeah.
It's good to have somebody there who can take over some of those responsibilities, who you're happy to trust to hand over some of certain types of jobs, so that you can concentrate on what you're good at, and have somebody there to pick up on the bits that you're not so good at. Like you might not have the financial acumen to to prepare your own set of accounts, or
Yeah.
to prepare your own set of projections, and having somebody there who can do that, or who can even look at your monthly data and tell you if they think that there's some issue, that one of your customers is taking too long to pay, and you should be looking into that. You should be chasing them. You should be looking at what you can do in terms of suppliers, where you can get your funding for your capex.
Yeah.
That kind of thing is really
Because when
important.
you're so busy doing the actual job, you can miss all the rest of it.
Yeah, I think sometimes you can become so absorbed in what you do and what you do well, that those other things kind of get pushed to the side, and sometimes they can actually be nearly as important as the day job. Keeping on top of those and making sure that everything's going in the direction that you want it to go in. You should really have something where you can measure against, that you can measure not necessarily just on a financial basis, but on an operational basis.
Yeah.
Like where you're going, what your efficiencies are like. If you should do a job in 2 hours but it's taken 5, like what's your problem there? Why are those additional 3 hours? Should it really be a 5-hour job
Yeah.
and not a 2-hour job?
Running your own business is exciting but challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine that it
Yeah.
would be. Yeah.
When there's so many other things to take into consideration, but I think for most young people, it would be don't be put off by all these things, but learn and identify what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah, and I think it's learning as you go. Like, as they say, there's no such thing as failure. It's just
Yeah.
something to show you a different path, and
Yeah.
to put you on a different track. And I think it's, everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's learning from those mistakes and making sure that you don't make the same mistake twice. And sometimes, it is about making that mistake in the first place, so that
Yeah.
you can find, something that you need to make sure that you're not doing
I can't remember who
again.
said it, but they said, he who has never made a mistake has never made anything.
Yeah.
So you have to make the mistakes and move on. So
Yeah, make the mistakes and learn from them.
one of the things obviously you're passionate about is young leaders NI. So this year's chairperson.
Yes.
2 things. Tell me a bit more about young leaders and what you're trying to achieve from it, and how do you juggle your time between the day job and young leaders?
Yeah, so this is our 8th conference that we're organising this year for young leaders. So it was set up back in 2012. The Young Leaders Committee is made up of Chartered Accountants Ireland, Ulster Society Young Professionals Group, the Northern Ireland Young Solicitors Association, JCI Belfast, and CIPR. So we're in our 8th year now of the conference. Young Leaders was initially set up, I suppose, to inspire leadership and to provide an opportunity for young people to get together and to hear from, leaders in their field, to network with other people in a similar space, to allow them the opportunities to grow, and really just to inspire leadership. As far as juggling with the day job, we have a good committee in place. So, we share out responsibilities. There's a bit of evening working and weekend working involved, but, kind of being in the 8th year now, there's a lot of things that we've learned from our mistakes over the years as well. And, we know what works well, what doesn't work well, how long to spend on, trying to secure a certain speaker if you can't get them within that time frame. Just, move on to
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
else. So, there has been a learning curve for us as well. And with the committee in place, we would try to have committee meetings once a month or once every couple of months. And, it's about planning quite early.
It's growing every year.
Yes, it is. It's growing every year. There's more people attending every year. The conference is kind of evolving every year too. It's changing in certain ways. I think the speakers, the caliber of them is good.
Yeah.
And the number of delegates is growing, and I think it's good for us to see that what we're doing is making a difference and that people are wanting to come, year after year to the conference. It's a great day out, and I think, everybody enjoys it.
The feeling I get from it is most people realise that Northern Ireland's trying to change, from being reliant on, public sector and trying to create more of an entrepreneurial spirit within inside Northern Ireland. It's been very, very successful. And young leaders appears to me that's the next generation, the guys who are really going to start moving this country forward. And if they're coming together at the same time and they've got the connections, they become their own mentors.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that totally. And that's, the kind of platform that we're trying to provide for people of a similar age group to get together, to make those connections, early on, to appreciate that, the connections that you make now will help you in later life. And then, by bringing in the different speakers that we bring in to try and inspire, our generation to try and, make that step out to lead in their field, to inspire others as well.
Look, some people answer this one, some people don't, so I'm just throwing this one at you. If you were sitting here with somebody who said, right, Jenna, I want to go out on my own, business-wise, is there one piece of advice that you'd say, okay, look, I've seen lots of businesses, I've dealt with lots of businesses, this is the one thing I think you should think of, do, or what's the one piece of advice you would give them?
I suppose my one piece of advice, and I think I've said it quite a few times there, is to plan, to be prepared, to have a plan in place as to what you want to achieve, how you're going to achieve it, what you can measure it against, and to always come back to that plan, to do something, to come back to the plan and say, well, did that help me? Did that lead me forward? Or, do I need to try again with something else? And to have, if you have a goal in place, then, to move towards that goal, to have good people around you as well, to plan to have those people, to plan to have a mentor, to plan, just really to plan to move ahead and how you're going to do that.
Brilliant. Jenna, delighted to speak to you as always. It's always a pleasure. I want to wish you well for this year in your chairpersonship of Young Leaders and have a super conference. So thanks very much for your time. Really
Thanks
enjoyed
very much,
that.
Roger. Thank you.